Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Olajide Bello. First, the headlines. United Nations says war and hunger fueling humanitarian emergency of epic proportion in Sudan. World Health Organization calls on countries to strengthen surveillance as COVID-19 subvariants remain global health threats. Plus, Nigeria's First Lady commits to promoting food security, equips 370 farmers with seedlings, pesticides and fertilizers. Now, starting with health, the World Health Organization says COVID-19 remains a global health threat as it calls on all countries to strengthen surveillance, sequencing and reporting to assess the risk of new variants. Adebola Brooklyn reports.
Early this year, the World Health Organization declared that COVID-19 is no longer a global health emergency, while emphasizing that it remains a global health threat. Briefing journalists, Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said, though data available to the Global Health Agency continues to decline, however, it has seen increasing reports of hospitalization, ICU admissions and deaths in some countries.
We continue to call on all countries to implement the standing recommendations to save lives and prevent the burden of long COVID.
Technical lead COVID-19 Health Emergencies Program Maria Van Cavo said WHO has seen detection of BA 2.86 and EG5 variants in Denmark, Israel, the UK, USA, South Africa, and has evidence of the variant in Switzerland and Thailand in wastewater sampling.
Your likelihood of developing severe disease and dying is reduced with vaccines. The many safe and effective vaccines that are in circulation, that are in use right now. Early access to clinical care and antivirals reduces the risk of developing severe disease. So that's what is important for the general public in our view. We will give a full profile and do a risk assessment of BA.2.86 as soon as we have more information. We expect the number of cases to be increased because we classified it as a variant under monitoring, and there could be more detections in countries from wastewater surveillance.
The UN Health Agency said it has seen a significant increase in cases of COVID-19 in the last 2 months in Asia, and cases continue to be reported regularly in Africa. Adebola Brooklyn, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention (NCDC) is monitoring the new subvariant of the Omicron variant of the SARS-CoV-2 virus named EG5 and BA.2.86. The EG5 variant is a descendant of XBB.1.9.2 itself, a descendant of Omicron. As of 7th August 2023, the EG5 has been reported in 51 countries, including China, the United States of America, the Republic of Korea, Japan, Canada, Australia, Singapore, the United Kingdom, France, Portugal, Spain, and more. Official statement by the NCDC on 26th August on the new COVID-19 subvariant in addition says EG5 has not been associated with any change in symptoms, clinical manifestation, and has not produced an increase in severity of illness. And away from health matters, President Bola Tinubu has advised the United States of America to ensure that its policy is intentionally collaborative with the independent African democracies at a time when they are under assault by anti-democratic forces within and outside of the continent. The president, who received the U.S. Presidential Envoy and Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Ambassador Malifi, this Saturday, noted that American-backed development finance and multilateral institutions, which were designed to support war-torn Europe after World War II, require swift and comprehensive reform to meet the developmental requirements of younger democracies in Africa, which operate in authoritarian, crowded environments. He said this is to ensure that the legitimate yearnings of Africans will no longer be manipulated to serve the narrow aims of self-seeking demagogues through unconstitutional takeovers of power. President Tinubu explained that the private sector will lead the way within an enabling environment created for them, but the U.S. government must be innovative in its thinking and systematically create incentives for U.S. industrial investment in Nigeria. He said under his leadership, Nigeria stands ready to address their specific regulatory, tax and environmental concerns, as he is determined to create prosperity for all Nigerian families. The Nigerian leader affirmed that the crisis in the Nigerian Republic would not deter him from concluding his economic reform program successfully for the benefit of Nigerians, and that he takes a cue from no nation but will only advance the interest of the Nigerian state in his approach towards ECOWAS handling of the regional standoff. The ECOWAS chairman declared that the war is not ideal for its economic reforms nor for the region, but the defense of democracy is sacrosanct, which is why the bloc consensus is that it will not allow anyone to insincerely buy time. Pledging its support for the position of ECOWAS, the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy expressed the high regard the U.S. administration has for the leadership of the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, President Bola Tinubu, and extended an exclusive invitation from U.S. President Joe Biden to meet on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York City to advance discussions further in late September. Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Toga disclosed that the parties also discussed trade and bilateral relations between Nigeria and the United States.
Economy, so business. We're looking at, of course, security concerns. That's the elephant in the room. You know, what's happening in our region, what's happening in Niger, and, you know, other things. The return to democracy and normalcy is paramount. The security concerns in the region also very important. Both sides are pleased. Of course, we're going to Anga, so there will be sideline meetings there also to continue along the same lines.
Niger's junta has suspended diplomats and also ordered France's envoy to leave the country within 48 hours. Kolo Mohammed tells us more.
The military junta says suspending of diplomats is a way to balance power. First, the junta expelled the French ambassador, handing him 48 hours within which to leave the country. The spree of expulsion has been upwardly reviewed to now include 2 more diplomats. These are those of Nigeria and Germany. The junta accused the home countries of taking a stance not in favor and support for the junta, which has been working to firmly root its power. The ousted president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum, is still under house arrest held by the junta. The African Union, ECOWAS, UN and the United States have all called on the junta to release the ousted president and ultimately restore democracy in the country. Kolo Mohammed, NTA News.
Meanwhile, United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Coordinating Office says war and hunger are fueling a humanitarian emergency of epic proportion that could destroy Sudan. UN Humanitarian Chief Martin Griffiths gave the warning in Geneva, Switzerland. Adebola Brookslyn reports.
The intense fighting that has ravaged Sudan's capital, Khartoum, and Darfur since mid-April has spread to Kordofan. Spokesperson of the United Nations Humanitarian Agency, Jens Lack, told reporters in Geneva that food stocks have been fully depleted in South Kordofan's capital, Kadugli, while in West Kordofan's capital, El Fula, humanitarian offices have been ransacked and supplies looted.
War and hunger could consume Sudan if those fighting in this conflict do not put the people of Sudan above their pursuit of power and resources. Hundreds of thousands of children are already severely malnourished and at imminent risk of death if left untreated. Millions more will have their education replaced by the devastating traumas of war, becoming a lost generation.
The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, said 2 million children have been displaced by the war in Sudan, with the possibility of spikes in children's deaths due to the rainy season.
As the rainy season comes, it's ironically access to clean water. We're going to keep seeing spikes in child deaths that are all utterly avoidable. I think it was in May, 2 or 3 months ago, that we spoke of all these factors combined risk becoming a death sentence for children, particularly those most vulnerable.
There are reports of dengue, measles, acute watery diarrhea, but also of severe acute malnutrition. So just give you some numbers, there were like 2,199 suspected measles cases with 30 deaths, 300 acute watery diarrhea, and 7 deaths, malaria cases as well. But again, reporting is not easy, so all these are just underestimates.
James Locke said the UN's humanitarian appeal for Sudan remained only 26% funded, which he emphasized is completely unacceptable. Adebola Brookslyn, NTA News.
And Adebola Brookslyn again reports that the continuous fighting in Sudan's capital city, Khartoum, has caused infrastructural damage, displaced many traders and affected millions of shop owners.
It's been 4 months since the clashes broke out in Khartoum between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. Millions of people have lost their property and businesses as a result of looting attributed to the paramilitary fighters. As displaced people move elsewhere in the country, many Sudanese states have witnessed the increase of business activities and the high demand for services.
We were looted and then our shops were burnt because of the war. Me and the other traders in Bahri Market had to move our businesses to the nearest safe location to Khartoum. We lost everything. We are now trying to adapt to this new situation because we need to move on.
In Al Jazeera states, authorities have allocated some displaced traders spaces to support their businesses. It has become a major shopping destination, especially for those who fled the conflicts in the capital.
The life here in Madani is similar to Khartoum, but the business is better in the capital. We launched new shops here recently, and we hope that we can stand on our feet after what we've been through.
The United Nations has warned of an extended civil war in Sudan if fighting between the two warring factions continues to escalate, and the fragile lives built by displaced people could still be at risk if the conflict spill beyond the capital. Adebola Brookslyn, NTA News.
And away from Sudan, results collation and counting began after polls closed in Zimbabwe, with President Mnangagwa's ZANU-PF's leading. Kalo Mohammed tells us more.
The ruling ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe is widely expected to maintain its 43-year grip on power after Zimbabweans voted in parliamentary and presidential elections. A tally by state broadcaster ZBC showed ZANU-PF winning 101 parliamentary constituencies and the main opposition party, Citizens Coalition for Change, winning 59 out of a total of 210. The result of the presidential election is yet to be announced. Emerson Mnangagwa, 80, is seeking re-election at a time when the southern African country is grappling with soaring inflation and high unemployment, with many Zimbabweans reliant on dollar remittances from relatives living abroad to make ends meet. His main challenger is 45-year-old lawyer and pastor Nelson Chamisa. Zimbabwe's chances of resolving the debt crisis and obtaining World Bank or International Monetary Fund loans are at stake, as foreign lenders have said a free and fair vote is a precondition for any meaningful talks. The government and Electoral Commission promised a clean election, but some political analysts say it was likely to be heavily skewed in favor of Mnangagwa, given his party's history of using public institutions to manipulate results. Kolom Hamed, NTA News.
And away from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, where every child can access best education available regardless of their circumstances, is possible, and this lofty desire can move beyond the realm of vision to reality with the right support system. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu stated this at the flag-off of the National Scholarship Program for Tertiary Education by the Renewed Hope Initiative in Abuja. State House correspondent NTAi reports that 46 indigent students drawn from tertiary institutions across the country made the cutoff at the maiden edition of the scholarship.
Ifeanyi Chukwuofama is 18 years old and a 100-level medical student at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. With his mother, a teacher in tow, he joins other 45 lucky 100-level students drawn from 30 states of the Federation, the FCT, and others nominated by recognized women's societies at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa for the first National Scholarship Program, flagged off by the Renewed Hope Initiative for indigent students in tertiary institutions. With the 1 million naira scholarship per annum for 4 years, he says his dream of becoming a medical doctor has now become easier, while his mother can now breathe.
When I finished my WAEC, I've been thinking about how will I go about university, how will I be able to pay for the books that I'll get to study in the university and others. But with this scholarship, it's an aid for me and my parents, so I'm really grateful.
Scholarship have reduced the half of the money I'm supposed to spend on my son.
It has reduced a lot of load in my father's head.
It's just a way of the government making sure that education in Nigeria is still something that is cherished, so that students like myself can go to university without stress.
Education is one of the 5 key areas of intervention by the Renewed Hope Initiative, and the National Scholarship Award will complement the student loan scheme of the federal government to further give access to indigent students seeking tertiary education.
It's a commitment and a promise that we make today to identify with the youth of Nigeria, to say to them that their dreams and aspirations matter. Through this program, we seek not only to provide financial assistance, but also to foster an environment where talent is nurtured.
While urging the beneficiaries to take their studies seriously, as their CGPA will be taken into consideration in subsequent years, the First Lady also encouraged them to acquire vocational skills. To be eligible, a beneficiary must have a good academic standing with proof of admission.
If we all support the cause of these gentlemen and ladies, especially in their educational pursuits, then we could have played our role in building a strong and virile nation, not only for now, but indeed the future.
Coming from university environment myself, I know there are lots of brilliant and indigent students. With this kind of initiative, of course, it's going to go a long way to support the academic activities in school.
The ceremony was attended by Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Bita Edu, and Minister of State for the FCT, Maria Mahmood. In the State House, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
You're watching the news at NTA International. More reports shortly. Thanks for being there. Meanwhile, the attention of the Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, is shifting to agriculture and health, 2 of its key intervention areas. Coming out of a meeting with zonal coordinators for the initiative, Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu says plans are afoot to promote food security in the country by equipping a total of 370 farmers across the country with seedlings, pesticides and fertilizers.
So we have the arrangement with NAD Fund, and thinking that those who need extra training, it will be done. And if they need, we are looking at also giving them resources, financial resources as well, and vehicle that can transport from farm to the market.
And by the time we'll meet next, we'll have a list of these farmers. We are looking at 20 farmers in each state, and by hopefully soon would have that list, and we'll also have the programs and training and the grants that we have, the RHI has for them.
The initiative will also support the establishment of farm markets in strategic locations across the country to facilitate easy access to fresh farm produce.
We're going to have people who have home gardens. So the first peak, because we want everybody, we're going to just have just one winner. So the state will send us one picture of the garden, which our team will go and observe. So, but the winner will go, will be encouraged with a sum of 5 million naira. So those are the things, because we want people to grow. You're not even excited with the 5 million. You better start growing a garden in your house. So those are part of the incentive to make sure that at least we can address issues of food security.
Measures to stamp out polio and sanitize the birth registration process in partnership with UNICEF are also being worked out. Now let's talk business. Nigeria's gross domestic product GDP grew by 2.51% year-on-year in real terms in the second quarter of 2023. This growth rate is lower than the 3.54% recorded in second quarter of 2022 and may be attributed to the challenging economic conditions being experienced. The performance of the GDP in the second quarter of 2023 was driven mainly by the services sector, which recorded a growth of 4.42% and contributed 58.42% to the aggregate GDP. The agriculture sector grew by 1.50%, an improvement from the growth of 1.20% recorded in the second quarter of 2022. The growth of the industry sector was minus 1.94% relative to minus 2.30% recorded in the second quarter of 2022. The federal government will work closely with subnationals to heighten the level of preparedness and deploy appropriate measures to minimize the possible impacts of flooding, especially at the peak of the rainy season. Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Yusef, at a joint news conference with Minister of State Water Resources and Sanitation, Bello Goroyo, indicates the government's plans to mitigate flooding. Olusheye Adiagbo reports.
The Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, indicates an increase in the volume of flow along the river Benue, registering a flow level of 8.97 meters as at August 2023, comparing to the flow of 8.8 meters same period in last year. With potential flooding in view, strengthening preparedness becomes inevitable as Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation is itemizing action plans that key players must adhere to.
These three levels of government should be sensitization of the general public by the states on the need for people living along the river banks to relocate to higher grounds during this peak period of rainfall. States and local governments should intensify efforts in clearing blocked drainages and also construct new ones where they do not exist.
Professor Joseph Yusef believes that at the moment there is no threat to lives and property, especially those states that are contiguous to rivers Niger and Benue.
There should be removal of illegal structures constructed within the floodplains, and the general public, especially road users, should desist from walking or driving along pool of water or flood.
To be forewarned is to be forearmed, and as dam water releases is integral to safeguarding dam integrity and mitigating flooding, the minister says NISA has maintained a professional and organizational relationship with its counterparts in Cameroon on exchange of information on water releases. In Abuja, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
Up next is weather prospects in Nigeria and other parts of the world for Sunday. And that's the end of the news in NTA International. Thanks for watching. I am Olajide Bello.